Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. We really hope to take this camper on a trip in about 1.5 months time. So I better get started to fix it up. And honestly, it doesn't seem to need a lot of work. There's a lot of cosmetic stuff. There's a lot of interior stuff that could be fixed on the go like I did last time. But of course it needs an MOT, it needs number plates, it needs to run decent. It doesn't run very nice when it's cold. Once it's warm, it runs pretty decent, but sometimes even warm, it doesn't run that nice. I'm gonna go ahead and do plugs and wires and all that, because it really seems to need that. The wires are completely crisp. I haven't checked the plugs, but I presume that they are pretty worn also. I actually had to move it quite a distance a while back, and it was running on 3 cylinders, and I just touched the wires and it started to run on 4. So I think the right thing to do would be to change all those things. But take a listen to this. It's not running on all. Misfiring a lot. And cuts out even. I'm just going to reverse it a bit back and then start work on it. As you can see, everything is quite old. The fuel hoses is almost moldy. The plugs and wires in here are stiff. It would be just nice to give it an overall service. I think that will fix most of it. Ugh. With the air filter box out of the way, I get a lot better access to the engine. I do have some repairs to do on that air filter box, by the way, also, but that's not the main issue today. I want to just give it a good service. As mentioned, I have a cold start running issue, but I also have a misfire coming from time to time. The cold start is probably connected to the carb, but I'm just going to do a service to the ignition component before I touch the carb, because it's running perfectly once it's running. So it could of course be the choke circuit, but I kind of just have a feeling that it could be ignition related also, that something just is not running very well when it's cold. So I'm just going to service the ignition components, change the cap, the rotor, the plugs, the wires and the spark plugs. I'm just going to change them all, starting with the spark plugs. All spark plugs are decent. This one is really rusty, but it's the hole, not inside. It's pretty much the same color on all of them. And I want to try to remove this one, the distributor cap, making sure to keep the orientation. Is it possible to put this in wrong? Nope, it's not. And a new cap. There we go. And then the longest one seems to come from this. And the one going to the coil. I'm just going to try to fire it up and see how it runs. I'm just going to check that everything is correct. Nope, I got it wrong. I think I actually got them all wrong. Let's try again. Oh. I think my feeling was right. I had to close off the choke quite a lot so it cut out. But it was definitely running a lot better than before. Let's give it a little bit more choke. Restart. Listen to this machine pour. It sounds perfect. I was correct, it was the ignition components. Probably the coils or the wires and the actual spark plugs. Take a look at this. It's cable operated speed pilot. It's pretty cool. That's perfect. This is the reason why I don't want to do more. I could adjust the valves and all that, but I really don't see any point in that because it was running perfect. Once it was running perfect before, I just had a bad starting and sometimes some misfires under driving. It is currently still heating up, so it's quite smoky. Maybe a bit more than what I like to see actually. It could be because I put the spark plug wires in wrong, so it's pulled a lot of fuel in that didn't really fire. I think it is running a bit rich on warm up, but I'm just going to warm it up because I would like to also just change that oil and oil filter, and then we'll see if it clears the smoke. That's decent. I think someone forgot to lube up this oil filter. The oil seal needs a little bit of oil before you put it on, and then it's only supposed to be tightened by hand. This is the reason why, because this is really tight. And not only that, it also fouls the fuel pump when I get to a certain point. Oh, this is worrying actually. I'm at the point where I start to doubt if I spin the correct way and all that, but I am. I think it's coming now. Just hope it's not snapping the inside or something, because this is the tightest oil filter that I have had in a long time. Yes, I can use this now. Problem is my tool was hitting this fuel pump up there, so it was difficult to really get it. I think I can take it by hand now. That was crazy, especially since I'm pretty sure this car was serviced by a workshop. At least I was told that was the case. Oh, this was tight. Nice. For that. It is the next day, and I moved the camper to the the garage door because I would like to start some welding later. Not in this video though, but I noticed something before I continue with the fuel lines. I noticed something that I need to fix. It is leaking oil from the plug. I did change the washer though, but for some reason it's still leaking. So I'm gonna use a trick to remove it and check it without spilling the oil. So in order to remove the sump plug without losing the fresh oil that I just put in, I'm gonna use a vacuum to make negative pressure in the crankcase, making it suck air through the filler plug when I remove it. And that way I shouldn't lose any oil. Another way would just be to take the plug out and have a container to catch the fresh oil and then put it back in. But in both scenarios, you risk contamination in the oil, of course. But I like this way better. When you drain it out, you need to have a completely clean container. You need to clean the area around the plug, and also there will be a lot of sediment in the bottom of the oil pan that could come out. When I use this method, I will also disturb that sediment, I think. So either way, it's not the ideal thing. The ideal thing would just be to put fresh oil in once again, but I'm not made of gold, and it's also a waste. So I'm gonna do it this way, and hopefully I can make it not leak. I just put my trusty skill light in so we can see what we're actually doing. You can see it's dripping away into the can right there. Now I'm gonna take my vacuum, put it into this. There is a chance that it will suck up a bit of oil. I don't think it will in this installation because there's a lot of air up here. But do keep that in mind if you use your vacuum, especially if you use the household one. Now I can switch it on. And then I can go ahead and remove it. It will be noisy, so I won't be able to say much from now on, I think. I really don't know why this leaks because I did change this, but maybe it's too thin. I'm gonna see if I got a thicker one, and if not, I'm just gonna take another one and put some sealant on it also. It's a bit of a hack, but it will work also. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this and try with this one that is way thicker, and hopefully it will stop leaking. And now it's just a matter of waiting and see if it leaks. It was leaking quite quickly before, so it will be visible pretty quickly. It's quite a bit later and I see no leaks, so that thicker washer did help. I think I just used a too thin one. I actually experienced that before on another car. I can't remember which one, but I think I bought some slightly too cheap washers, universal washers, that are not, it's just not a lot of material to crush and deform into shape. But now it's not leaking, and that is nice. So it's a bit of a hack job, but it works. But keep in mind, you are disturbing all that oil in the bottom end of the oil pan quite a bit, and there could be sediment down there that will be bubbling around. I don't think it matters. It's just something to think about. Now I want to go ahead and remove and change the fuel lines. They might actually, I think I'm going to clean them up first and take a look at them, because they are not original for sure, but they don't actually look cracked or anything. They are just very moldy. I thought they looked crisp. The problem with changing fuel lines is that very often the older ones are better than the newer ones. Nope, this is no good. See, I'm changing them all. I'm just going to remove everything and go to the bench and change them. So I'm going to try to recreate this with new hoses and new filter. I also cracked this junction right there, the T-junction. So I have a new one of those also. Let's get to work. I'm not a huge fan of these braided fuel lines, but it's all I have at the moment. I think it's quite important to not get them soaked in fuel. It seems as though they perish quite quickly if that happens. Other than that, I just don't like them very much because you can't see the rubber, so you don't really know how things are. There we go. I'm gonna fit this to the car and also change a little piece that goes to the pump, because this is after the pump. This goes to the carb, this goes to the pump, this goes to back to the tank. That's the way. And this is for the other part. I'm gonna go ahead and fit that. Just to show you why this is a good thing to do, and check at least. This is the fuel line. Let me get some better backlighting. This is the fuel line that goes from the tank and into the pump at the front of the engine. A very hot place. It wasn't leaking, which is almost unbelievable. But yeah, check your fuel hoses. So this is all I'm gonna do today. The next thing will be to fix the brakes at the front and the rubber gaiters on the steering rack, and then the rust. Then it should be MOT ready. There will still be a lot of loose ends, but it will be MOT ready. And there is, I think, 5 weeks from now, we are supposed to go on a week's trip in this. Not a long trip, driving wise, but it still needs to work, hopefully. Otherwise we'll have to take the other one. It's a luxury problem I'm having. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.